All right, Braves fans, let's get rolling. I'm George McNair, and this is State of the Braves. Well, guys, we are getting towards the end of spring training. We're just about 10 days away, or 10 games away from the end of spring, which, man, that's awesome. Spring is definitely here. Weather's getting warmer. The end of college basketball season is happening. I'm really into that, watching a lot of games right now. We have NFL free agency. This is one of my favorite times of the year. The Masters is on the horizon. Love watching that. And of course, the start of the baseball season is top on the list. So as the season is getting close, I want to give you guys my sixth boldest player predictions for the Braves for the 2024 regular season. This is always one of my favorite episodes each year as I try to do my best at predicting some player performance. Am I always right? No. I mean, honestly, that's really not the point. I do have fun with these. I'm also trying to get it right. I'm not just, going crazy with these things. But, just as a reminder, last spring I gave you 5 predictions. I got 3 wrong. I got 2 right. Again, it's to be expected. I'm not going to get all these right. Honestly, if I got all 5 wrong, I might, think about doing something else. But okay. Full disclosure, the things I got wrong. I said that Strider would win the NL Cy Young and lead the National League in Ks. Well, he did lead the National League in all of MLB in strikeouts, but of course he fell short in winning the Cy Young. We can all see the Cy Young potential that is honestly right there. I think he's on the cusp of it. But I got that one wrong. I also said Grissom or Shoemake would be named the Braves starter at shortstop by May 15th last season. I was definitely wrong on that one. Of course, remember, all the talk last spring was not about Arcia, and then he had a tremendous first half of the season, but he also fell off, and I'll talk about Arcia a little bit in this episode as well. But I got that one wrong. And then I said that Michael Harris would finish in the top 10 in the National League MVP vote. And remember the injury that kind of derailed his early part of the season. He got off to such a slow start, but then rebounded in a massive way. And honestly, he was a top 10 player easily in the National League once he turned it back on about June 1st on. So I honestly don't feel bad about that one in that prediction, but let's be honest, I got it wrong. The 2 things I got right. The first one I'm really proud about. I mentioned this before, but I predicted the combination of Acuna, Harris, Riley, and Olson would hit 150 home runs. It's kind of remarkable to think that any combination of 4 players in your lineup could hit 150 home runs, and they actually got it right on the number last year. So that was really cool that I got that one. Now, it didn't happen quite the way I thought. I never thought that Olson would hit 54. Harris hit less than I expected. I really thought he'd push close to 30, and he only hit, I think, 19? So I do think Harris will hit more this year. It's hard to imagine Olson will hit quite as many this year, but nonetheless, all told, they got to 150 home runs combined. And then I also got correct that 2 Braves would finish in the top 6 in the NL MVP race. Of course, Ronald Acuna won it, and Matt Olson finished 4th behind Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. And then Austin Riley, by the way, got 7th. So I guess I should have said that 3 Braves would finish in the top 7, which is just, again, really remarkable. Probably doesn't get talked about enough that the Braves had 3 of the best 7 players in all the National League last year. Okay, so that's what I got right. That's what I got wrong last year. Now, before we dive into my 6 bold predictions, again, these are specifically player predictions. I'm not talking about the team yet. That's going to be in my next episode. But before we do that, let's cover some recent Braves news. The first Braves news that is the most important thing across all of Braves nationhood, I guess, is that Ronald Acuna seems to be just fine. That knee, I think, everything he said is the knee's fine, guys. The knee's fine. I'm ready to play now. The Braves, obviously, we're going to take all the precautions necessary to protect the greatest player in baseball right now. So he got back on the diamond in the Thursday day game against Tampa Bay. He just played DH, but he was in there swinging, and Ronald never lightens up at all. So he was swinging hard and looking good. And even though he just played DH, I think he's totally back, and I don't think we have anything to worry about with that knee. With 11 days and 10 games remaining on the spring training schedule, I think Ronald should have plenty of time to ramp back up. The main thing I would worry about is getting his timing back. And honestly, I don't even know if Ronald's not a normal human being. I mean, he could probably get his timing back immediately. Some guys it takes, a week or two, but he does have that time to get back in the lineup, get his swing right, and get totally back to 100% as we go directly into the regular season. The other bit of Braves news that hit this week and was a bit of a surprising addition was that Adam Duvall is returning to the Braves for a third time. Yeah, third time's a charm for Adam Duvall. I think everybody likes Duvall. I mean, he's got his warts and wrinkles as a player. He's never going to hit for a high average. He does tend to be injured a good bit. But, man, the guy can hit some home runs. He can play a really good outfield. He was, of course, a part of the 2021 World Series run. And so what's not to love about a beloved player like Adam Duvall? So Alex Anthopoulos has already stated that the Braves now plan to platoon Adam Duvall with Jared Kelenic in left field, going away from the original plan to let Kelenic play every day. So, I actually addressed this a little bit in some previous episodes. In fact, I think it was the last episode I talked about, the further the offseason goes, the closer we get to the first day of the season, some of these free agent outfielders that are still on the market are probably going to get a little desperate to sign a deal and get to camp with somebody. I think that probably opened the door a little bit more for Duvall, but I still think he probably doesn't sign with the Braves unless they offer him a chance to platoon, right? If he had just signed and look, you're going to get buried at the end of the bench and you're barely going to play, he's probably not signing that, even though he loves Atlanta and knows the clubhouse and all that. So the opportunity to play, just a strict platoon got him in. So he signs this 1 year, $3 million deal to come back in a really comfortable environment that he knows and loves in Atlanta. So it does seem like a really good fit. But the Braves are going away from this plan to play Kelenic every day, even against left-handers. So on one hand, it is a little concerning to me that they are already taking away some playing time from a young player like Kelenic. He has clearly struggled a lot this spring, but it is spring. It also makes sense to take some pressure off of him. I mean, if you want to be a little more on the optimistic side of this, right, you bring in Duvall. Kelenic doesn't feel like he has to play every day. You let him just go out and play against righties. And if he does continue to struggle, obviously from the Brave side of things, you have a lot more, you have a security blanket here in Duvall. Alex said that this decision is about Duvall's value. It's not a knock on Kelenic. It's not the idea that they don't believe in Kelenic anymore just because he struggled a little bit in spring. I think that could be a little bit of GM spin. Like there probably is a slight concern that Kelenic has started so slowly in spring training. I mean, let's be honest, if he was hitting 400 and hitting bombs all spring, this deal probably doesn't get done. But it's no secret, Duvall fits in the clubhouse perfectly. He can play all three outfield positions. The outfield bench situation for the Braves is not the best, even though Forrest Wall has played great this spring. But I think he still has limitations that the Braves are fully aware of. So it immediately improves the Braves' weakest area, which is the bench. That spot, whether you have Duvall coming off the bench in certain games or Kelenic, you have a guy there. And if an injury were to happen to any outfielder, Duvall can fill in, for an extended period of time. So look, the ultimate perspective is that a Kelenic Duvall platoon is a significant upgrade over a Rosario Pilar platoon from last year. It also shouldn't be lost that Duvall could cover Ozuna if Ozuna were to get hurt or if Zuna were to fall off the map. And we know that he has a tendency to do that sometimes. So Duvall makes a lot of sense to cover your DH spot as well, which the Braves really did not have before they signed him. In a corresponding move, Jordan Luplow was released upon Duvall's signing. I was actually watching the spring training game where Luplow was supposed to be in the lineup. Suddenly he wasn't a few minutes before the game started, and I kind of had the thought of, oh, well, I know Duvall just got signed. What happened? So he probably asked for his release to get. He saw the writing on the wall there, and maybe he's getting another opportunity with somebody else. So, anyways, he's basically a lesser version of Adam Duvall. So now Duvall comes in, and he's going to slide in really nicely. I heard a recent interview with Snicker basically saying that Duvall is one of his favorite players he's ever managed. He's just an excellent guy, and he keeps coming back to the Braves, and they keep bringing him back. So there's obviously a mutual admiration there. All right, now let's do a recap of some league-wide news. I don't typically do this, but I thought, with the season kind of on the horizon, it'd be good to get some just brief news from what's going on around the league, and then we'll get into my 6 bold predictions. So a reminder that injuries, especially on the pitching side, can strike at any time. The Braves know this. We can hope and pray, we can cross our fingers, whatever, that it doesn't strike the Braves this year. It probably will at some point, let's just be honest. And so you guys, if you are paying attention around the league, Garrett Cole shut down for a bare minimum of 1 to 2 months. I would kind of guess it'd be more like 2 to 3 months with an elbow injury. The good news for him is it looks like it doesn't require surgery, but this has kind of sent the Yankees reeling. They already were kind of in need of more starting pitching, and now they lose the AL Cy Young winner from last year. The Brewers lose Devin Williams, who might be the best relief pitcher in baseball, or probably is at least in the top 3 or 4 on that list. They miss him for 3 months due to back fractures. I have no idea what happened there, but hopefully he's not just fracturing his back randomly. But I didn't hear that there was an actual incident. Anyways, they found fractures in his back, and he's down for 3 months. This is a Brewers team that already traded Corbin Burnes. The thought is that by the trade deadline, they're going to start selling off this team. I think that is something to kind of be aware of, and the fact that he's going to be out for 3 months basically pushes them towards that trade deadline anyways. So, man, that's really hard for a team that already was kind of on the fringes of contention. Lucas Giolito is done for the season with the Red Sox. He just underwent a brace procedure surgery, which is kind of similar to Tommy John. And then Justin Verlander with the Astros. They also lost, just saw today, Jose Urquidy might have some issues. Braves fans might remember him. He pitched a pretty good game against the Braves in the 2021 World Series. But Verlander is going to start the year on the IL. It sounds like it might not be too bad of a thing. It's being described as a minor shoulder problem. I don't know if there is such a thing. Braves fans know with minor shoulder problems, we know how that turned out for Kyle Wright. But they're talking about bringing in, one of the 2 big free agent pitchers that are still out there, maybe Blake Snell. So obviously they are feeling like they need to strike somewhere to bolster their starting rotation. So anyways, I'm bringing some of this up just a reminder of I really like what Anthopoulos has done. If the Braves were to lose a starting pitcher, obviously it would hurt them. But would it mean that they wouldn't be a playoff contending team? No. The Braves have obviously a tremendous offense that's going to support their pitching, but they also have more depth than I think most teams do to deal with one guy going down. Now, if you got 2 or 3 guys going down, every team is going to be significantly harmed by that. You really can't plan for that. But that being said, it's just part of baseball. It's part of the game. We're seeing it happen. The other bit of not Braves news, but league news is Dylan Cease has finally gotten traded to San Diego. That has been on the near the top of trade rumors all off season that the White Sox would try to trade Dylan Cease somewhere. In fact, it was a part of some Braves rumors early in the off season. So he ends up going to San Diego for 4 prospects. Sounds like none of these guys are like top 100 prospects. They're kind of solid, but not considered top tier. So I don't know. The White Sox might not be too thrilled that they had to settle for that. Cease probably helps San Diego stay in wild card contention. I don't see them vying for the NL West against the Dodgers or even the Diamondbacks. But you know they have some decent pitching at the front end and an offense that's capable. You know that team had a lot of off the field clubhouse issues last year. They just didn't gel very well. So I'm not a big believer in San Diego, but you know we'll see what Cease brings to the table for them. But yeah, you know obviously at one time many considered Cease a target for the Braves. Cease is under contract for 2 years, while the Braves obviously you know it sounded like they kind of checked in on Cease early. Then they pivoted to Chris Sale. So while Cease is with San Diego for 2 years, the Braves have Sale for 3. And we'll see, you know, which team makes better on those moves long term. But I've liked more and more what the Braves have with Chris Sale. Okay, so now let's do it, guys. Here are my 6 bold predictions for the 2024 season. Again, these will be player predictions. My next episode will cover team predictions, including how many wins I think the Braves are going to get, playoff predictions across the entire league, all that stuff. So with these predictions, just a reminder, I'm trying to stick my neck out a little bit. I'm trying to make them bold, right? While also being honest in what I really do think will happen. All right, my number 1 prediction is probably my least bold prediction, but I'm extending it a little bit to make it a little more bold. Okay, so my number 1 prediction is that Ronald Acuna Jr. will repeat as the MVP of the National League. I think he's the favorite across the league, so I don't think this part of my prediction is bold, but the bold part is I think he will be the first ever ball player to have a 50-50 season, 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases. I think Ronald can do it. Ronald can do it all on the baseball field. Last year, it actually felt like he should have had more home runs. I especially felt that early in the season. He was just ripping line drives everywhere, but he wasn't lifting the ball quite as much. Felt like he lifted the ball a lot more in the second half. He hit that run late where he had a lot more home runs and got to 40. So he just hits the ball consistently harder than any human being in the world. So I think he gets a few more balls in the air this year and is going to maybe go on a little bit more of a home run binge and get to 50. Ronald last season, in the first month of the season, he hit 352, which is kind of remarkable in and of itself, but he only hit 4 home runs in that first month. Like I said, it was mostly line drives, a lot of ground balls too, and they were going for base hits. But again, I think he's going to show more power early in the season. Him coming back from this little knee tweak, whatever it was, is really important for him to get off to a good start. And by the way, I also think he's going to have a much better defensive season as well. That's not really a part of this prediction, but I wanted to mention that. So I actually wouldn't be shocked if he has a better all-around position in terms of the metrics and WAR and all of that. But yeah, Ronald having a 50-50 season, he might not steal quite as many bases. Maybe this knee thing could hold him back. Or if you're just hitting more home runs, you're not on first base as much, right? It limits your stolen base opportunities a little bit more. But yeah, 50-50 I think is legitimate for Ronald. And if you do that, you're winning the MVP. All right, my number 2 prediction is that Austin Riley will hit 40 plus home runs for the first time and finish in the top 5 of MVP voting. So you guys, I'm a huge fan of Austin Riley. I think he brings a lot of consistency year to year, but maybe not consistency month to month. And I think this is what could unlock him to just become that much greater of a player as he gets a little older, a little more mature, learns the right approach, which I think he really has done. Now it's just about getting consistent with that approach day after day after day. And he's looked really great so far this spring with his right center field approach. I mean, really early on, it just started, and he's been ripping balls to right center every time I turn on a game. So if he starts well and can shorten some of those mid-season offensive lulls, along with the improved defense that he's bringing to third base, I think he cements himself as the game's best third baseman. He's in the argument probably with Jose Ramirez of Cleveland as the top third baseman already. But, if he has a season like this, I think he does that. And remember, I mean, he finished top 7 this past year and has been top 10. What is it? 3 times now, 2 or 3 times. So this isn't him moving way up the list, but it's just kind of next level, kind of similar to a year that like Matt Olson had last year. All right, my number 3 prediction is that Acuna, Harris, and the combination of Kelenic and Duvall in left field will combine for 100-plus home runs this season. So again, last season I had a home run, a group of guys with a home run prediction. I kind of like that one, so I'm going to do it again. And so again, this is the Braves outfield as a whole. Acuna, Harris, Kelenic, and Duvall will combine for 100-plus home runs. And I actually feel really confident about this one. I mean, Duvall's signing is smart. Obviously, he was injured. If you didn't follow Duvall in Boston much last year, he got off to this crazy hot start, then broke his wrist or his hand and went down for a while. But he ended up having just a very good offensive year last year. He hit 21 home runs and only 350 plate appearances. So it does not appear like he is declining. At the very least, it looks like he's the same player he was when he was with the Braves last. So I think if he gets 250 to 300 plate appearances, he hits 15 home runs easy this year. You put Duvall in the lineup, he's going to hit home runs. And I think Kelenic will do some damage too. So Duvall signing, we already mentioned this, but it will reduce Kelenic's playing time. And I know a lot of fans are concerned over Kelenic's slow start this spring, but I still believe that Jared Kelenic in the long run is going to figure it out and he's going to turn it on. And he might kind of be a hot and cold guy. I mean, we're going to learn what he's about as we watch him more. But I really think he's going to figure it out. It might not be early. It might be June or July before he hits a hot streak. But I think it will happen. So how do you get to 100 home runs with this group? If Acuna hits 50, which I'm already saying he does, even if he doesn't quite hit 50, right? If he hits 50, Harris has a breakout all-star type of year, which I really think is very possible. I mean, I predicted it last year. I think it even looks even more possible this year. I think Harris could hit 30 plus. And that leaves 20, 25 home runs for Duvall and Kelenic to cover, which I actually think will be pretty easy for them as a combo. So yeah, I feel like 100 is very legitimate for this outfield, which, I haven't dug in every outfield, but I can't imagine any other outfield in baseball being this powerful. And by the way, I already mentioned this a little bit, but I'm really big on Michael Harris this season. This isn't part of my top 6 predictions, but guys, I think he's going to be an all-star. I think he's going to win a Gold Glove. I really think he's going to hit over 30 bombs. And if he does all that, he might have the highest WAR of any center fielder in baseball, maybe minus Julio Rodriguez with the Mariners. So I think this could also be the year that Harris steps out on the big stage and cements himself as a top 10 or top 20 player across all Major League Baseball. But again, that's not part of my predictions, but I'm really pulling for Michael. He's really become one of my favorite Braves. And he certainly has every ability out there to do it. All right. So my number 4 prediction, I'm going back to last year. I made this prediction last year. I'm sticking to it, guys. Spencer Strider, Spencer Strider will win the NL Cy Young while leading baseball in strikeouts. And I actually meant will lead the National League in strikeouts and wins. Now, I think he'll lead the league in strikeouts, but I think he'll lead the National League in wins along with the strikeouts, along with winning the NL Cy Young. So it's hard it's not hard, excuse me, it's not hard to imagine Strider putting this type of season together. He basically did it last year. Just he's got to eliminate some of those blow up games that he had. Um, and it's also easy to forget that last season was his first full season in the rotation. With more seasoning, a lot more motivation coming off of last year's postseason failure. He's got that new curveball, which I think is going to be huge for him as well to take a step forward. He looks poised to dominate the National League more than ever. And why would the curveball be the best possible new pitch for him? Look, it works perfectly off of his rising fastball, and it is significantly slower than the fastball. It's even a notch down from that slider. And I think you'll actually see guys. You think about this when he faces the Phillies, they foul him off. They foul him off because that slider and fastball. Uh, if you have that correct approach, you can probably foul him off more and make him work. And with the curveball, I think he's able to punch guys out quicker. Um, and I don't think you'll see that kind of success from the Phillies or any other team. And the curveballs look really good. It's not like a gimmick pitch or something he's just throwing up there. It looks really good. So hitters won't be able to cheat as much off of the fastball, which should make the fastball even more effective, if you could believe that. If he stays healthy, I think he gets to 300 strikeouts. And again, I think he wins the Cy Young. I just do. All right, let's go on to my number 5 prediction, and that is Chris Sale has a bounce back year and finishes in the top 10 in the National League Cy Young voting and top 5 in strikeouts in the National League. So I'm going out on a limb on this one because Chris Sale has not been healthy enough to do this in quite a few years. But he's looked really good in spring training. I might be, maybe he baited me into believing this just, by watching him a little bit. And obviously you can't predict. The worst thing to do in betting right now would be to bet on Chris Sale's health. I suppose that's true, but he looks really good when he's on the mound. His last start in spring, he struck out 6 in 3 1/3 innings. Guys, a lot has been made about Sale's impact on the Braves clubhouse, which is very real, but I really think his biggest impact will still be on the mound. You can't project his health, but all signs point to a guy who still has very good stuff and is highly motivated to help a great team win a World Series. So I think when you put this whole package together, the type of dude that Sale seems to be, he's still a strikeout machine. And if he just stays healthy enough, I honestly think he's a top 10 Cy Young candidate. All right, let's go on to my number 6, my last big prediction, last bold prediction for 2024. And that is, I'm going back to Orlando Arcia too, guys, that Orlando Arcia will not be the starting shortstop by August 1st. Now, let me start by saying I think the Braves fully believe in Arcia, and I think they have every intention of him being the starting shortstop for the foreseeable future. But it's no secret that I'm not a huge believer in Arcia's ability to hit consistently. He also has had some injuries over his career, so this might not just be a performance thing. It could also be an injury thing. I've always thought that based on his very affordable contract, that the Braves would simply ride him as long as he performed well. And if his performance came back down to earth, I don't think they're going to jettison him. I don't think they're going to trade him away. I think they would just slot him back into a backup role and then bring in somebody else. And so that's kind of what I foresee happening. Now, ultimately, maybe it doesn't happen by August 1st. Maybe this happens in 2025, or midway through 2025. I do think it eventually will happen. I'm just saying it might happen sooner rather than later. I think the Orlando Arcia we saw in the second half of last season is the more legitimate, the more realistic Arcia. I think the guy in the first half, I think he was playing the best baseball of his life, and it's just going to be hard for him to repeat that. So I think he's more of a low average, occasionally hit a home run kind of guy. He is a good glove at shortstop, not remarkable, doesn't have great range. So again, whether it's injury or poor play or a combination of both, I see the Braves kind of getting to the trade deadline and looking at the team and seeing this is the area we can improve the team, and they're going to, I think, do that. Now, that might not be a trade. I mean, the internal option would be Nacho Alvarez. This would require him really proving it in the minor leagues, obviously up until this point of the season. He's really got to prove defensively that he can play shortstop. I think he already would be um, a better hitter consistently than Arcia. But physically, Nacho Alvarez looks more like a third baseman or even a catcher. He's kind of stocky. He doesn't have elite range, but he's also not defensively Vaughn Grissom. It's not like he's booting the ball. He's a solid glove. He's just got to improve his range and maybe his footwork a little bit. If they did go out and trade for somebody, just a reminder that guys like Willie Adames with the Brewers, Tim Anderson with the Marlins, Hassan Kim with the Padres are all potential rentals that you could go out and get at the trade deadline if those teams are not in the hunt. All three of these guys are excellent defensive options with probably some more upside than what Arcia has. And like I said, I'm not saying the Braves would just jettison Arcia. He's very popular in the clubhouse. He's a beloved teammate. I think they would keep him, and he's only making like $2.5 million, so he's making what a backup should make. So I think he would stay with the team. But again, I just think that's where the Braves could look to improve the team this season. Some best of the rest. I had a couple other thoughts. I'm not going all in on these, but just see what you think about these. One thought for another prediction would be that AJ Smith-Shawver would make 10 plus starts this season and take steps towards entering the rotation full time in 2025. I think the Braves probably want him to spend at least the first half developing at AAA, but they've given him significant time in spring training. And they've seen him a lot. I think they really like what they're seeing from his development. He's still a really young pitcher, but I think he's super athletic and super capable. So I'm believing more and more in him long term, and I think the Braves are too. And then another one that I had the thought of is the Braves will match the 2023 number of All-Stars, which would be 8, that they would have 8 All-Stars in 2024. So my guys there would be Strider, Sale, and Max Fried from the rotation, and then Acuna, Michael Harris, Olson, Riley, and then maybe either Murphy or Ozzie to round out your 8. I mean, all those guys are legitimate. I mean, is this me being a homer? No, like MLB.com has 4 Braves in their top 20 players in baseball and 7 Braves in their top 50. And then they have Ozzie at 66 and Ozuna at 83. So, guys, the Braves are stacked. I mean, we, as Braves fans, must realize that we are in a golden age of Braves baseball. The amount of talent on this roster is extreme. And, I'm putting Sale in the All-Star game, and he doesn't even make the list of top 100. But he easily could with his ability if he can just stay healthy. So my last thought on some predictions that didn't quite make the cut for me, that Matt Olson will hit 50 home runs in back-to-back years. A lot of people think he's going to, come back down to earth, upper 30s, low 40s in home runs this year. That's kind of been the type of player he's been in the past. Kind of every other year is great. Every other year he takes a step back. But I think he might have unlocked something last year with his approach. He adjusted his hands in his stance, that left center field approach. And so I could absolutely see him coming back, and just the dude is a power hitter, and him hitting 50 again is very realistic to me. So anyways, guys, I've thrown a lot at you. I wonder which predictions you really like, which predictions you think I'm a little crazy with. Please let me know. Either way, I hope we can all agree that this Braves team is darn good, and they're going to be really fun to watch this season. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Stay of the Braves. I'll talk to you soon.